everybody, and welcome back to, I believe, the 130th episode of the Triboro Podcast. We can't do math here. I'm your host, Justin Alonso, joined by Nicholas O'Brien. It seems like the off-season is finally starting to wake up.
A little bit. Happy New Year, of course. Hope everyone had a safe and happy holidays. Uh, Truthfully, not too much happened, as always. I forgot who put it out, but it was like 6 of the top 9 free agents haven't signed, and it's like 15 of the top 30 haven't, something
Yeah.
along those lines. So there's obviously still a lot of good players still on the market, and I feel like even the trade market hasn't really fully gotten rolling as much as it possibly could.
And I feel like also if Murakami, Akamoto, and Amai didn't have deadlines to sign, I still don't think they would have been signed.
Yeah, no, not. I don't
So
think so either.
if it wasn't for literal deadlines being in place, the market would be no moves would have happened.
Right, and you saw the contracts they got. Akamoto was probably the only one that maybe got in line with what a lot of
Yeah.
people thought, but Murakami got next to nothing compared to what a lot of projections are out there. Imai, same thing. So
Pretty much all projections had Amai and Murakami getting 9 figures.
right,
Or at least
and
very, very close to it at the very minimum.
yeah, and Imai got the most years with 3, and even then he has opt outs after every single year.
Didn't
So.
Akamoto get 4?
Well, yes, but
Oh, okay.
saying
Yep, yep,
Murakami
yep,
and
yep, yep.
EMI. But yeah, so there's that.
Yeah. It feels like it's, when you're cooking, you're boiling water, and you're starting
Mhm.
to see the bubbles on the top of the pot. It's not quite steaming
Yes.
yet. You're starting
No,
to
no,
see
no.
like the
Bloop,
bubbles
bloop,
start coming like on top,
bloop.
like the
Maybe like a little
condensation of the
sizzle
bubbles.
on
Yeah,
the
a little bit of
side.
sizzle on
The
the
water
side.
moves.
Yeah.
I
So
think that's where we're at.
we're almost getting there. The stove is lukewarm, as they might say in the biz. But
Yes.
anyways, on that note, we will get into the Bronx.
Now entering the Bronx.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Bronx, where we actually have stuff to talk about this time. So, before we get into all the rumors and speculation, 2 quick things I just want to mention. First off, the Yankees have signed Paul DeJong to a minor league deal. He's not been good in a while. He's depth. Maybe they unlock something. Maybe it's a Matt Carpenter story. Who knows? He's depth for now.
He
But the other,
kills the Mets.
what'd you say?
He kills the Mets, I'll tell you that much.
But a kind of story that I think is going under the radar right now is that the Yankees, obviously, they fired the head of international scouting, and in between episodes, they also fired kind of like the assistant, so the next in line. They also just canceled all international pre-agreements, so they're reconstructing the entire system, and the signing period opens in 10 days. I don't think it's just a thing of that affects this year. I think that affects multiple years in the future as well. So they still don't have a head of international scouting. No idea how the hell that's going to happen, but that's a very big deal. Granted, the counterpoint is what have the Yankees done internationally in the last couple of years and how
Yeah.
that affected the team. I would say fair. So you're not really losing much compared to what you had.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that's kind of going under the radar right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But that's definitely something that's got to get fixed, like right
Soon.
the fuck now.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Because this also makes me think if, because this kind of segues into a lot of the other deals. How much more likely do you think they are now to be attaching a lot of international money in deals?
That's a good question. I think it's fair. That's
Because
an
like if
interesting conversation to have because if you don't, I'm not sure who now is in charge of the international signings now that you don't
I
really
don't
have a
think
head.
anyone knows.
Right. So, and I doubt like Brian Cashman's kind of
Yeah.
leading that charge either. So maybe they kind of, I'm not sure how good of an idea this is. Maybe they kind of just punt on this year and kind of how what you implied, and they attach a ton of bonus pool money in trades.
Because if you're a team like the Brewers or the Marlins, you have to do a lot of your team building in the international free agent market because you're just not going to spend that much money or whatever. So those are two teams the Yankees have heavily been linked to for
Right.
trades. So could see something there where it's like, okay, we'll trade for Freddie Peralta. We'll give you a shit ton of extra international free agent money. Trade for Edward Cabrera. Give you a shit ton of international free agent money. Kind of something along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised if they give a lot more than normal just because of
Yeah.
that fact.
I think it's also a good question. How much do teams value that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it kind of the same as kicking cash, like, cash considerations in the middle of a trade? Like,
I think
is
it's a
it
lot
that?
bigger of a
Is it
deal.
above that?
I think it's a lot
Yeah.
bigger of a deal because one, you would think there'd be a lot more money going forward, and also every team has that money to spend, and every team
Right.
only has a limited amount of money to spend in that.
True,
When
true, true.
cash considerations is like 25K,
Right.
50K, where it's like a small thing, but like now this we're talking a couple million, which could be like a 30-year budget.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
True.
So
Yeah.
I think from just a scarcity standpoint and just like how much resources you have, it would be more. But I just wanted to mention that because I don't think that's a nothing story, which is kind of going under the radar now. But before we get into Edward Cabrera and Freddie Peralta, I did want to mention that MI did sign with the Astros, came out of fucking nowhere. Very complicated deal where it's 3 years, 54 mil, opt out after every year, and he has. I think the weirdest part was where the incentives were. Because correct me
Mhm.
if I'm wrong, but it was after 80 innings, 90 innings, and 100 innings every
Yeah, I'm
year.
pulling up right now, but it was
Uh,
something along those lines. I know it started at 80, but it's just very odd when, for all intents and purposes, he's supposed to be a starting pitcher. And if you're
yeah,
having incentives around those lines, is
weird.
he going to be a starting pitcher?
Yeah, I don't know. Um, I will take a little bit of solace that 29 other MLB teams would not give MI that deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, look, I don't blame. We talked about it when it first happened, but I don't blame any team for not doing this, especially for, the Mets and Yankees, because with MI, you're also having to pay a posting fee, which is based off the total value of the contract. So even if this is a glorified 1 year deal with the opt outs, you're still paying that posting fee
what is that,
based
like
off
12
the
million? Probably
something like
about
that.
that, 12, 13.
For the $64 million contract. So on top of the 18 mil he's making this year, you were paying 21. Excuse
You're
me, you're paying
you're
another
paying more than
12.
30 mil.
Right, for a basically 1 year contract on a guy who probably doesn't project to be an ace, probably on a good day is a good two, good three, and you're just not really sure how he's going to, what's it called? Can't think of the word,
Translate.
translate to, yeah, to Major League Baseball. So I think Imai has definitely a ton of potential. I'm not trying to discredit that, but I think there's obvious flaws in his game and just little concerns that you're just not sure how's his backward slider going to translate to Major League
Yeah.
Baseball? How's his fastball going to? How I believe he throws a splitter. So it's just all those things, and then on top of he's probably gonna need extra rest. So yada yada yada.
And
Long story short,
I'm not gonna speculate on what they could be, but there are also rumors of maturity issues. Again,
hmm
not gonna speculate on them because I have no idea. Never met the guy,
yeah,
never talked to him. Don't. I'm not gonna pretend like I watched the NPB, but there were rumors that there are maturity issues that teams were worried about. Um, so we'll see how that contract turns out because that
yeah,
seems very. it could go either way until we
Yeah,
actually see him play.
it's fine for Imai. I don't really get why the Astros would give him that because
Yeah.
again, if he does well, which I'm sure they're hoping, then he opts out and it's a 1-year deal. So
And I'm surprised at the very
whatever.
least it's not backloaded. Like I'm
Yeah,
shocked that I'm shocked that it's 18, 18, 18.
yeah,
Not like 12 and then whatever that would be like 21, 21.
right.
Just to like help with the posting fee and all that. But anyways, that was that. And then kind of getting into Peralta and Cabrera, I thought that Edward Cabrera was like a done deal a couple days ago. Just the way the reporting was, where it seemed like, oh yeah, the Yankees are seriously discussing him. Names have been discussed. There were names even being dropped, like Ben Hess, Dylan Lewis. So I was like, okay, is this gonna happen within the next day? Seems like it's kind of simmered off, and I think
Yeah.
part of that could be that just a lot more teams realize like, oh, he's available. So you're kind of
Mhm.
seeing that a lot more. Jack Hurry did say yesterday on Hot Stove that nothing was imminent, but there are serious discussions, and he did kind of talk that there is a lot of competition for him. Which, look, it makes sense. He has a live
Yeah.
arm. I would love the move for the Yankees. He's such a weird pitcher in the sense that his fastball he averages 97 miles an hour, but it is a god awful pitch. This year he had a 433 expected weighted on base, a 601 expected slug for a -7 run value, and it was -9 in 2024. It is just
Okay.
it's fast as hell, but it is just not a good pitch. That being said, he is not a fastball pitcher. So at least it's not like his primary pitch is the one that's dog shit. It's like his fourth or fifth pitch. He's really kind of a changeup curveball guy. 5 run value on changeup, 7 run value on the curveball. And there is something to the fact that the Yankees are very good at developing changeups. Where you look at Max Fried, his changeup really took a tick up when he came over to the Yankees. You look at guys like Luke Weaver, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil, Carlos Rodon, maybe if you fucking threw the changeup more. But you look at a lot of guys, the Yankees are very good at developing the changeup. So I would love it for that reason. Then and I'm not even really going to get into ERA, FIP, stuff like that, because I think we can all admit this guy's a project guy. And
Project's a
I
little
was gonna say project is a little
Yeah.
too harsh, but in the sense of let me rephrase it. He's an upside guy.
Yes.
He's a very high ceiling guy. The bad is he cannot stay healthy. I believe last year was his high in innings at 137, and in 2025 he had 2 different IL stints, one for a blister that happens, and the other one for an elbow sprain, not good. 2024 he missed 67 games due to a right shoulder impingement. That was 2 different stints. 2023 missed 28 games due to that right shoulder impingement. 2022 missed 47 games with right elbow tendinitis. So a guy that has a history of shoulder issues and elbow issues, and the scary thing too is he has not had Tommy John. At least he may have had it earlier in his career, but in the last like 5-6 years, he's not had Tommy John. So that concerns me. A guy that's had multiple elbow issues and hasn't had Tommy John in a while makes me really worried that the dam's almost gonna break on that UCL.
Yeah.
That being said, if it really is true that it would be like Ben Hess, Dylan Lewis, and I saw like lower level hitter or two, meaning or lower tier prospect. So not a Dominguez, not a Jones. I would 100% do that, just banking on the upside, because this is a guy that I'm very confident would be very good with the Yankees. And I think something the Yankees can offer him that a lot of teams can't is like, yeah, like you'll be a starter in the beginning of the year, and then if you start getting tired, we could give you kind of like that mid-season break and move you into the bullpen once guys start coming back.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, he has 3 years of team control. So a heavily controllable young starting pitcher.
Yeah.
A lot of value. What are your thoughts overall on kind of
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've watched a lot of Edward Cabrera, being that he's on the Marlins. This is probably going to be a hot take, but I don't really think he's that good of a fit for the Yankees, if I'm being honest. I think the Yankees need consistency, or at the very least, they need somebody is going to be healthy the entire year with this rotation. And I might be a little short sighted because I'm kind of just looking at 2026, but if you add Edward Cabrera to this rotation as it is right now, yes, Cole's coming back, yes, Rodon's coming back, you're just adding more risk, I feel, rather than reducing it, because we went over the injury history. That is a very real possibility. He's never had a fully healthy season. His career highs is not even 140 innings. So how many do you really expect to get out of him? And I'm just not sure as of right now he's that good of a fit. And maybe, in 2027 and 2028, because yes, like you said, 3 years of control, he's a better fit. But as of right now, I feel like he's not the type of pitcher the Yankees should be looking at, I guess is where I'm getting at.
Which is fair. My counterpoint to that would be like, guys are gonna get hurt, pitchers anyways. Pretty much any pitcher you trade for, odds of them just their season being done in one pitch. Fortunately, they're relatively high compared to position players, so there's that injury risk with anyone. I'm fine taking the risk on a guy with that upside, knowing that at the very least you're probably gonna get two guys out of Rodon, Cole, Schmidt back at, let's
Yeah.
call it, middle of the year. So if you could just manage the storm until then, and you're putting in a high upside guy to kind of be like that 4 or 5, I'm okay with it, especially considering that he has long term. You have him for 3 years total, and he's not going to really cost you that much. That's kind of where
Well, that's also where I disagree. I do think he'll cost you a decent chunk. It's 3 years of control for a good pitcher. Like, this is don't don't get me wrong. He is a good pitcher. It's
Yeah.
just the injury history and the lack of consistency. I just I'm not sure.
Well, let me
This is the
rephrase when
guy
I
I would
say
be
not going to
going at.
cost you a lot. If we're talking Ben Hess, Dylan Lewis, and not Dominguez, Jones, Lombard, and not Elmer, Lagrange, or why can't I think of the other one? Whatever. But if you're not trading a guy that's like a legitimate top prospect, sure. Like if it's
I
not
feel
what
like
he,
you have to though. Despite what's been kind of thrown out there, I feel like
well, my
you
understanding was
need
those were the
another
names
one.
that were leaked, that
No,
were
no,
like
I get it.
being talked about in the deal. So
Yeah,
if that is true, I don't care who you're giving,
yeah.
frankly.
I mean, look at. I think this is probably not a great uh what's it called, comparison, because I think the Orioles overpaid. But look what Shane Baz got. The Orioles traded for Shane Baz, and they gave up a shit ton of prospects
I think that's
that
also
I'm looking up right now.
well, you get that. I think that's also a good example of just the Rays capitalizing on a desperate team.
hmm No,
So
for sure. I do think there's some desperation in there, but we got the Orioles number 6, the Orioles number 10, their number 11, and their 30th overall prospect on top of a balance round draft pick. But whatever. So that's 3 top 15s, 2 top 10s, and then all 4 in the top 30.
fair.
So, and Shane Baz is is a from a pitcher comparison, is probably pretty is probably a good comparison for what's it called,
Cabrera.
for Cabrera. Now, I need to see how many years of control he has
I'd
because I'm
I'd
not
bet
sure.
it's similar.
But Shane Baz is a free agent after the 2028 season. So what's that? That's
3.
3. So this basically is the exact same pitcher with, you know, limited, not limited, a low floor, high ceiling, a guy that hasn't stayed healthy. Their healthiest season just came this past year. And Boz, he had a very similar season to Cabrera, maybe not in the ERA standpoint, but 31 starts, 166 innings. Again, the ERA wasn't great, 4.87 compared to Cabrera's 3.53, but that being said, I'm not sure you're gonna be happy with the price for a
Hmm.
guy who I'm not sure how much you're gonna get out of him.
Which is definitely a fair argument. My only counterpoint is the Yankees and Marlins have done so many deals throughout the past, and it's always less than what you expect. I think the Marlins just really like the Yankee system overall, and that probably has
Yeah.
a lot to do with it. But that's Cabrera. And then kind of moving on to Freddie Peralta. There's a lot of stuff. Ken Rosenthal is like pretty convinced he's gonna be traded and that they want like an MLB starter in return. Curry said that the Yankees have had discussions about him, so there definitely is a lot of smoke to the fire there.
Mhm.
Will it happen? I'd probably say no. I think the Brewers are kind of be dumb to trade him
Mhm.
because look, this guy's making $8 million this year. What is the difference between like? Because I know everyone clowned on like the John Boy take about like Scooble and Peralta, but if I could tell you that you're getting Peralta for 8 million or Scooble for what is he getting? Like 20 something?
It's a good question.
He's getting a lot in arbitration. They're both 1 year deals. I and then you consider how much you'd have to give up in prospect capital and where you are with the Yankees. It would almost make more sense to get a Freddie Peralta because he's going to be significantly cheaper while also not bringing on that much money.
He's also considerably worse than Tarek Scoop.
I know, but
I think I
it's also
uh,
considerably less you would have to give up.
I think it's worth it though.
What'd you say?
I think it's worth it though. Whatever the difference in what you're giving up for a Scooble, which is probably not happening,
Mhm.
but the difference I think is
Oh, I
absolutely
agree.
worth it.
But I'm just saying that you're giving up a lot less for where the Yankees are, where it kind of seems like they don't want to add a lot of money outside of Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, no,
Where you,
it makes sense. I get it. I'm just saying in general that, you know, give me the price for Scooble, give me the price for Peralta. I'm taking Scooble.
oh, I agree, 100%.
Mhm.
But I just there's more that I think helps the Yankees specifically, or fits the Yankees specifically more with how they're kind of trying to save around the corners.
Yeah. I also think Peralta's a much better fit than Cabrera.
Yeah.
Much, like 100%.
Oh, I
Like
agree.
but yeah, w- I also doubt the Brewers really trade him. I don't see how they can stomach this one because Burns, I get. Burns was never coming back. Burns was never going to sign a contract in Milwaukee. Milwaukee was never going to give Burns a contract. Peralta, maybe. If he really wants to stay in Milwaukee, I can see them figuring something out. But if they decide to trade him, I think you're probably looking at a Will Warren or a Luis Heel being the centerpiece going
Good.
back.
I'd do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
I feel like Warren just seems like a Brewer to me. I I, I really have nothing to base off that,
The
if
name,
I'm being
the
honest.
the
But yeah,
WW, Will
I
Warren.
just it just
I get
I
that.
just feel like that sounds like a Brewer. He could be a consistent 4-3, something like that. So I can definitely see them liking Warren.
I could see that too. And something to mention with Peralta and Cabrera, both the Brewers and Marlins do have relievers in the bullpen. I think the Yankees would be heavily interested in with
Mm.
McGill for the Brewers, and I forget, is it Ben? Oh my God, is it Bender for the Marlins or is it someone else?
Anthony Bender,
I
is that
forget
who you're
who.
thinking
Let
of?
me look at the
They have a
Marlins.
couple of controllable relievers.
I forget the guy's name. Why am I blanking on this
And
guy's
yeah,
name?
Anthony Bender, Lake
Yeah,
Batcher.
either Bender or Nardi are kind of like two guys that
Yeah,
the Yankees have been connected to in the
Nardi's an
past.
interesting name. Nardi's definitely an interesting name. He's more of a, I don't want to call him a project. I feel like just he's a lot. The underlying stuff likes him a lot,
Yeah,
despite the results. So
which I could see that kind of being a throw-in, where it's like, okay, we'll give you a better prospect if you throw in Nardi
yeah,
or something like that. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
So
sure.
there is something where I also could be in the minority here, but I think if the Yankees do get Cabrera or Peralta, it's not just going to be just for them. I
Mhm.
think they're also going to, and it may not be with the Brewers, it may not be a McGill because he will cost you a lot. It'll probably be a
Yeah.
lower level, or not lower level, but like a lesser extent reliever
Right.
because the Yankees kind of need to, I don't want to say need to, but with the way that the free agent pitching market has gone, especially the relievers, it's dried up quite a bit. And I kind of think they would rather do kind of a get two moves out of the way in one move type of deal.
Mhm.
So, and just because we are talking about the Marlins, I did want to mention like Pete Fairbanks. A lot of Yankees fans are like blew up when they saw that they didn't get Pete Fairbanks. I don't really think he would have been a good fit for the Yankees personally, just because for those that don't know, he has something called it's Renard's, right? It, it's Renard syndrome, which pretty much means that he can lose circulation in a couple of his fingers, and it gets worse in cold weather. I don't know about you guys. I wouldn't really trust that September, October, March, April,
Yeah.
and he can manage it. But I just think it makes so much sense for him as a person to stay in Florida.
Yeah.
So let's
Definitely.
not overreact to that move, guys. Like, come on. And again, I'm not making fun of him because of that. I'm not discounting him as a player because of that. But I think it's just one of those moves where it kind of makes a lot of sense to why the Yankees didn't want to give him, what was it, like 10, 11 million?
Something like that. Yeah. Honestly forgot how much he got. It's been a while. Pete Fairbanks, 13. 1 year,
13, yeah.
13.
I
Yeah.
A lot of Yankees fans blew up when they saw that he went to the Marlins. That
Yeah.
out of all the reliever moves, that's the one that kind of makes sense to me why they stayed away.
Yeah, I mean, if the Yankees weren't going to sign Luke Weaver to the $222 million contract he got, they
What was
weren't
it,
going to
Keller?
sign.
That's on the same exact deal,
Same exact
or
contract. Yeah.
Brad Keller. So
Right. Pete Fairbanks for 13 million. They weren't going to do that either.
yeah, and then kind of getting into because that was the pitching market. There's other guys that I think we were talking about yesterday where if they were to get a pitcher and then they were also to sign Chris Bassett as like a second pitcher, I would kind of really like that. Just as a
Mhm.
guy that will eat innings. And also, in the same breath, he is a pitcher. He is not a hard thrower. He is a guy that throws 27 different pitches and knows exactly how to throw them. A lot of guys could benefit from that. I think if the Yankees sign Chris Bassett, the second they sign him, I need every single hitter on this roster and Cam Schlittler locked in a room with him
Mhm.
because he always kills the Yankees in the sense of he just knows exactly how to set them up, shut them down. Whatever the Yankees' weakness is, he knows how to exploit it. I would pay for him just so he could sit down and talk with the hitters on
Yeah.
how he exploits their weaknesses. And I think he would be very good for Cam Schlittler. And just the sense of teaching him how to use secondaries and all that.
Yeah.
But that's that for the pitching, unless there was anyone else you wanted to kind of add on.
Not really. Everyone else is kind of just that mid tier, the Chris Bassett types,
Yeah.
which probably not really what they're looking at, even as much as Chris Bassett might make sense. They're probably not really looking in that area, if we're being honest.
Yeah. I will say a lot of people are kind of comparing this to the 2021 offseason, which I kind of would agree with, where they didn't make any moves until January. Obviously, they did already make a couple of moves, but then they brought back DJ LeMahieu. They traded for James Tyone. They signed Corey Kluber. I can kind of see something similar where it be like a Bellinger, Cabrera, Bassett type of thing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. In like a 5-day span,
Yeah.
3-day span, even.
So getting into kind of like the Cody Bellinger, I think that it's almost at a point where it's do or die for the Yankees and Bellinger, where the Yankees they recently offered a second contract. A lot of the reports are saying that there is still a gap in money, which Scott Boras, no shit, he's gonna wait it out as long as humanly possible, which I think
Hmm.
almost could be doing a disservice to Cody Bellinger.
Mm.
Because I think Cody Bellinger wants. I think if you get Cody Bellinger in a room, get a couple of drinks in him so he's a little more honest, I think he would say he wants to come back to the Yankees.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if money's the same, he's come back to the Yankees. Grew up a Yankee fan. Dad played in the World Series, won a World Series with them. Absolutely loved it this year. Yada yada yada. I think if all money's the same, he wants to come back to the New York Yankees, and I think the Yankees also would like him back. And I do worry for his sake that Scott Boras, being Scott Boras, may hurt him and lose him out on money because of that.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah, shocker.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we could be looking, or he could be looking at another February signing where he gets a 4-year deal with an opt out or something like that again. But I mean, how many times are you gonna want to do that?
That's what I mean.
'Cause
Like, for Bellinger's sake, I think he should just sign. Like, again, I don't know the Yankees offer, so I don't know how fair it is. Whatever, I don't know what other offers are there.
Right.
But it almost feels like they just gotta meet in the middle at this point. Because how much
Mhm.
better are you really gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, no, fair. I mean, would a platoon of, a Dominguez and Austin Hayes be similar to what Cody Bellinger might bring? Maybe. I don't think that's crazy to say. I mean, you obviously know my thoughts on Bellinger as a player.
Yeah.
So,
Not even just
no,
that,
it's
but the money you save from that to then spend on pitching.
right.
And I've said that too, that if they miss out on Bellinger, I'm A-okay them signing Austin Hayes and then trading Spencer Jones / Dominguez for insert pitcher.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, if we look at the other free agent outfielders, it's Bellinger, it's Tucker, who is probably not on the Yankees' radar,
I'd be shocked.
which is a shame, but whatever. Harrison Bader, Mike Talkman, Austin Hayes. You could have a reunion with Miguel Andujar, Starling
Honestly,
Marte,
wouldn't
Max
even be the worst
Kepler,
thing, but
Tommy Pham could be another Austin Hayes type.
he could teach the Yankees about Fangraphs.
He could teach the Yankees about Fangraphs. And then after that, it's your Dylan Moore, Chas McCormick's, Kike Hernandez types, which is not really great.
Kike is not going to be a Yankee.
No, he's going back to the Dodgers, but he's there. He's on the list.
Yeah, for me, if they don't get Bellinger, I want Austin Hayes immediately. I think he's the perfect fit. There's been a lot of reports the Yankees really want a right-handed hitter. Like, they're almost like obsessed with getting a right-handed hitter. That makes a lot of sense to me. That kind of goes into the Bo Bichette type thing, where the Yankees see Bo Bichette as the kind of fallback, but in the same breath, I've seen Jack Curry and Chris Kirschner both said they think it's very unlikely that they get Bo, which makes a lot of sense because for me, if you get Bo Bichette, I feel like you have to do so much more work because to me, Bo Bichette is eerily similar to Gleyber Torres
Mm,
in the sense of not a good defender, speed is going down considerably, good bat that goes through some slumps that'll make you want to blow your brains out.
I also feel like Bo Bichette is just going to fall off a cliff at a moment's notice.
That too. Where it's just, to me, like, I see so many Yankees fans that are saying, like, oh, trade Jazz, bring in Bichette. You guys all shitted on Glaber for how long? And you want to bring in a guy that I think is just going to be a worse Glaber Torres? That's the back end of that contract's going to look horrible when you trade
Right.
away one of your most productive players.
Yeah,
That would be ridiculous to me if you did that.
I agree.
Now, if they can find some sort of a way, because I do want to address the Jazz rumors. I think it would be very hard to sell me on a Jazz trade.
Yeah.
One of the only, I mean this very confidently. One of the only scenarios where I see the Yankees getting better in a Jazz trade is if you trade Jazz for controllable pitching, bring back Cody Bellinger, and then trade for Nico Horner. That is one of the only ways I see them getting better through trading Jazz, just because I think you could pick your poison with Jazz and Horner. I think they're very similar players and just how overall they give you value. But
Yeah.
I think Jazz is a better fit. And on top of that, I think the Cubs it would be a mistake for them to trade Horner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't think they're
think
gonna trade Horner.
Now they do, especially for a rental, because I'm pretty Jazz has only the 1 year, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's more so with not a 1-for-1, but more so
I
they
see.
trade Jazz to another team, get
Somewhere else.
pitching, and then trade for Horner as a corresponding move.
Gotcha. Yes, yes. Okay, that makes more sense. But that does make more sense.
So I just don't see it happening. I feel like
Yeah.
that would be the only way that I would be satisfied with the Jazz trade.
Mhm.
I do,
Yeah,
I think if
I can see
anything,
that.
we should be talking a lot more about extensions with Jazz rather than trading him.
Than getting rid of the guy.
I just think it's ridiculous to trade a guy that was a spark plug on the team, loved in the clubhouse. Just ridiculous
Yeah.
to me. Especially a guy that, and obviously this is talking the ceiling is ceiling if everything goes right, if he plays 162, he has 40-40 potential in it.
Oh yeah.
And again, I'm not saying he's going to go 40-40, but if you there's only a handful of guys in MLB that you could say have 40-40 potential. Him, Shohei, Acuna, obviously, Bobby Witt,
Julio.
what's up?
Julio. I would
Julio,
say.
like there's only a handful of guys that you realistically
Yeah.
can say can go 40-40, especially with him playing in Yankee Stadium, ballpark that significantly plays to his strengths. So you don't trade a guy like that, especially when
Yeah.
he's cheap, in a position where we talked about it last year, all throughout the year, where Ketel Marte is obviously Ketel Marte, but I don't see how you can make an argument for anyone else being the second best second baseman in baseball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
That is
I
a
agree. I
valuable
fully
player.
agree. Yeah.
But,
I fully agree.
so now I think there could be an interesting discussion of if you bring in insert because that being said, why we're talking about trading Jazz, all that, the Yankees don't view Bo as a shortstop; they view him as a second baseman. Um, Now I also did see that they may even like him as a third baseman, in like a McMahon trade, bring him in. How that
I
would
don't
work, I
care.
would have to see how that would work. I
I
don't
don't think
hate
he
the
fits as
idea of that.
I do. I don't think he has the arm for third base.
Fair.
Yeah, his arm strength is in the 36th percentile.
Never mind. I'll take that back then.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of that as well. So this isn't directed towards you. I don't understand. Like you can get away with a bad arm at third base. But especially when you have to learn the position.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that viable. And honestly, is I mean probably because of the offense, but like how big of a difference is McMahon's defense plus whatever else you can unlock offensively, plus horrendous defensive Bo and his good offense.
I think it's more so of a point of them just forcing more right-handed bats.
Which, if that's the case, then they should probably stop
Yeah.
because I feel like that's when you fall into and just a fallacy of just we need to be more right-handed. Like just if you're left, you know, coach your guys to hit lefties better. Like
Yeah.
as stupid as that sounds, it's just like
No, I get what you mean.
low key get better.
Yeah. No, but that's kind of what I meant. Where like I don't think they should either. I would just sit with McMahon, but I
Yeah.
could see, and again, this is very few worlds, but I could see a world where they want to be a lot more right-handed and they force a McMahon trade to sign Bo.
Yeah,
Again,
no, I get that.
I don't think it happens. I don't want Bo Bichette, but I think like the only benefit of getting Bo Bichette is you keep him from going back to Toronto. That is like
Yeah, basically.
one of the only benefits in my mind for Bo Bichette. And I don't know. I'm pretty out on Bichette. I see so many people that are like, "Oh, get Bichette." No, I, and I also don't think it happens, which I'm happy about because if you're telling me that you're gonna give similar contracts to Cody Bellinger or Bo Bichette, just bring back Bellinger. Just bring back Bellinger. If it's gonna be similar, even if it's a year less for Bo and a couple less AAV, just bring back Bellinger at that point.
Agreed.
So that's that. There's so many different ways the Yankees can go. I just would love clarity on the Bellinger situation. It almost feels like it's at a spot where, and again, I could be reading too much into it, but there's a gap, and Scott Boras said like, look, or Cody Bellinger said like, I want to take this deal, but it's a thing of Scott Boras said, all right, let me let me put some reports out there. Let me put some shit out there. See if I could drum up any other interest from other teams.
Yeah.
Kind of how, like you said, when we were kind of in between sections, how Will Salmon did mention Cody Bellinger is a fit for the Mets, and you're kind of
Right.
seeing a lot more things where Buster Olney put out a thing saying that there seems to be a sizable gap between the Yankees and Bellinger, and it kind of seems like a thing of they're just trying to squeeze out money at this point.
Yeah, I think I do feel like it's coming to a head. It's kind of
Especially
just
with it
like,
being a second offer.
right.
If it
It's
was
more
a
now.
first
It's
offer,
really
okay, sure, but like the second offer, it seems like Boris is just trying to squeeze out every last penny at this point.
right now. It's all right. How about what if we do this?
Yeah.
All right. Well, a signing bonus. No. Okay. An
Opt
opt
out
out.
after the fourth
Whatever.
year, whatever.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly.
that being said, I would be very shocked if there's a 6-year deal that I like with Bellinger.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's
If
something like 25 a year. Or like sub 25, like it's like 140.
yeah. Even
Where it's
then,
like so low AAV. But honestly, at that point, I would rather do 5 150.
yeah. I'd rather overpay for.
I'd rather
Well,
do 5
I'd
150 than 6 140.
I'd rather overpay for 4 than go
Yeah.
over 4.
Which I think I think the Yankees are kind of in that 4-5 range. And Bellinger's in that, I'm going to say it, in that 6-7 range. I hate it. Where I think they honestly do kind of compromise in that 5-year. Maybe
Yeah.
options, whatever bullshit for a 6th.
Right. Options, opt outs, some.
Yeah, but I would find it hard for me to see a world where I like a 6-year deal. Again,
Yeah.
there could be some contract language that makes it like so unique that, okay, maybe I actually do like a 6-year
Right.
deal.
Maybe vesting options.
Some
I don't
sort
know.
of
Yeah.
something or whatever. But I'm kind of dead set on 5 years. Unless, like I said, you do some creative whatever.
Yep.
Just trying to think if
Agreed.
there's anything else that really is crazy that happened with the Yankees. Because that's really all that I had. It really does seem that it's Cody Bellinger or bust. But that being said, I do like their backup options if Cody Bellinger's asking for a ridiculous amount.
I also, truthfully, I'm not. I don't understand why they're not really in on Tucker, like
I agree.
at all.
Especially with the way his
Like
market's gone.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like he's not gonna get the long-term contract he wants. So the Yankees should be all over this. Tucker
would
is
agree.
better than Bellinger.
I would agree.
Everybody seems to think that, except for Brian Cashman and the Yankees. Well,
I may not go that far, but
I'm
you're being
being
yeah,
hyperbolic.
you're making a point.
But
Yeah.
yes, the point is, it's not. I don't know. I don't get it.
It could also just be the thing of how unique of a fit Bellinger is compared to other players, or compared for the Yankees compared to other teams. But then my
Yeah.
counterpoint would be, I talked about it earlier in the year. The whole point of why Cody Bellinger is a phenomenal fit for the Yankees is he pulls the ball in the air at an elite rate. Kyle Tucker does it more. So for the same
Yeah.
argument of Cody Bellinger being a better fit for the Yankees than any other team, you could make the same argument about Kyle Tucker.
Yep. Everything literally
The
translates.
only argument is defense, and even then, I don't think it's not that big of a gap that the significantly better and more consistent. I think the biggest thing with these two guys is the consistency of Tucker. I think that's like the biggest, because if you're telling me Cody Bellinger, what he did last year, if he can replicate that for the first 2 or 3 years, I may push back on the Kyle Tucker stuff. But I just don't think he will replicate that for the next 2-3 years.
No, I don't think so.
So I think that's the big thing. Where there is a realistic world where Cody Bellinger is more valuable on his contract than Kyle Tucker. But if he re-signs with if on the very big contingency if Cody Bellinger re-signs with the Yankees. But I don't think that it's very hard when you look at Cody Bellinger's career to say that he will consistently replicate that. Now, I do think that he's made changes. He made stuff where there is a realistic possibility that he can. I don't think he's going to be a 5 WAR player. I think he's going to kind of be in that 3.5, 4 WAR.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see like the 2021 Bellinger where like he's kind of just god awful.
Yeah.
you can't really
But we're
play
also
him.
not going to see 2019 Cody Bellinger.
Right. He's going to be, a 115 WRC plus guy, like you said. Good defense, a 3.5 win player, 4 on a good year.
Yeah.
So, and really quick, because I wanted to just throw this in about Tucker's defense. It's not like he's been a horrible defender his entire career. He's had good years defensively, so I think some fielding work, maybe some positioning work,
He also
he can
has had
be a
lower
bit
body injuries
less.
the last couple of years. Whether
Yes,
was it the
that
ankle
yeah,
in 24 or was it last year?
yeah.
I think it was
No, I think
24.
the ankle was 24. Last year was like the wrist
Yeah,
or
the wrist, something
whatever.
else. So like he has had multiple different issues
Yeah, like
that could have affected it. And
his sprint speed has gone down a tiny bit
yeah,
year over year, but again, I think the offense just kind of overblows that, anyways.
I would definitely agree. But in the same breath, the Yankees did score the most runs in baseball last year.
Right.
I think that, like I've been saying the entire time, the pitching is a much bigger deal. I am a-okay with them signing in Austin Hayes to platoon with Dominguez because I think I really want to see Dominguez get full runway or a lot of runway. I think
Yeah.
that could be a lot more valuable if you bring in an Edward Cabrera, a Freddie Peralta, and then another pitcher. So,
Yeah, I agree.
so that's all I have, unless you have anything else.
I do not. So with that being said, let's head on over to Queens, where it's somehow even murkier.
Now entering Queens.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Queens. That's really it. Not much going on. I wish I could say they're connected to somebody, but they're really not. Except for Cody Bellinger. Kind of. A little bit. Anywho, welcome back to Queens. Obviously, it's been a while. We'll play some catch up to begin, and then we'll get into more of what's next. So, since the last time we spoke, the Mets have made 2 pretty major moves. The first being signing another former Yankee in Luke Weaver for their bullpen. They gave Luke Weaver a 2-year, $22 million deal to be in the back end of their bullpen. Weaver is coming off a good year, but not as good as 2024 with the Yankees. Dealt with a pretty big hamstring issue, which we obviously talked about a ton on here, but I still think it's a good move. Mets needed help in the back end of the bullpen. This definitely helps. I would have liked some more velocity. I think that's desperately something the Mets bullpen is missing. But, Weaver still kind of sits 95, so that's still okay velocity. But I do think they still need somebody that, can get up there in the 98s, 99s. But
Correct me if
it's
I'm
neither here nor
wrong,
there.
but I believe the issue with Weaver when he came back from the hamstring is that he just was not getting whiffs in the zone. That
Hmm.
everything was just getting hit in the zone when he came back. So again, I don't remember, but I believe that was kind of like the difference between last year and this year, where he just was not getting the whiffs in the zone that he normally would, whether that be
Right.
due to velocity, placement, whatever that may be. But I think that's kind of something to watch out for, Mets fans.
Yeah, for sure. I think hopefully a healthy offseason and some, we'll see what the new Mets pitching staff kind of sees with Weaver and anything they might want to tweak. But from a stuff standpoint, he has a good fastball. He gets a lot of ride on that. He has a good changeup. That's like one of his best pitches, if not the best pitch. So we'll see where they kind of go in from there. Uh, really not a ton to talk about with Luke Weaver. I kind of think he's just a good pitcher. Like, he's fine. Like, he's a unspectacular move, but I think he's a good move nonetheless.
I'm a little worried about the kind of just flash in the pan type of guy. You know what I mean? Where it could just be a thing like had one really
Sure.
good year, falls off after. I don't think that happens, but that definitely is a concern when it does come to the type of pitcher that Luke Weaver is, where they're like really not that good, kind of go to the bullpen. Oh, have a very good year. Then a year, whether it be his fault, injury, whatever you may be, has an off year, was un calling him unusable in the playoffs is generous.
Yeah.
And so there is a little bit of concern with Luke Weaver, especially when Brad Keller got the same exact contract. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, but I also feel like that's just kind of relievers
yeah,
in general.
100%.
Uh, so again, we'll kind of see how much of an issue the hamstring really was, because before the hamstring issue, he was
He was awesome.
lights out.
Yeah,
But right after it, it's we talked about it off camera. Like, this was Kodai Senga as a relief pitcher. He was really good, really good. Hurt the hamstring, came back and just wasn't right for whatever reason. Whether the hamstring was still hurt, whether the mechanics were off. Even Justin, I believe you were pretty hard on the Yankees for bringing him back so early,
yeah,
or you
yeah.
kind
Because
of
they
like
said he was
after
going
a
to be out
while.
4 to 6 weeks, or even like 6 to 8, and he was back in under 4 weeks. Especially like those core injuries are, I feel like, the most nagging. Where
Mhm.
anything in like your hamstrings, your quads, your abs, your obliques, anything in that kind of section, I feel like if you don't get it 100% out of the way, it's gonna come back even worse.
Yeah, for sure. And it's basically what happened. I mean, but just to further the point, before the hamstring injury, if I could find it. Mr. Luke Weaver had a 105 ERA with a 310 FIP. After the hamstring injury, Luke Weaver had a wow,
Yeah,
holy crap,
yeah,
531 ERA with a 442 FIP.
mhm.
So very different, very stark. Uh, Again, hopefully healthy offseason, get him in the pitching lab, and we'll go from there. I would like to see him to add another pitch. I think that's like
I
my
just want to
thing.
add one thing really quick, just because you
Hmm.
mentioned the splits. Again, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but he mostly was eighth inning before the
Right,
injury, was mostly ninth inning when he came back. Does that have
right.
to do with the closer spot? I don't know. I don't think so. Think it's worth adding the context though.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe put in a little too much pressure on himself. You know, trying to rush back, and then
And it was his left hamstring. That was something I wanted to see. So kind of the
okay,
landing leg,
the
where like he
landing
may
leg.
just not finish as much, and that could be
Yeah,
a reason for his velo dropping, is because he
for
didn't
sure.
want to go for like that full extend. I wish you could see the extension before and after.
Yeah,
That would be
that'd be
perfect.
nice.
But like kind of how he doesn't go for full extension because he doesn't want to fully test out that hamstring. But
Yeah, definitely. If I'm trying to do some quick, amazing podcasting to see some of the pitch movement
you know,
before
let
and
me,
after. Uh,
because you could
but
also, because most of his year was post hamstring injury. Let me
yeah,
see. So in 2025, he was 6.1 extension. Okay, never mind. Same
yeah,
6 in 2024 to 6.1. So negligible.
yeah,
But
yeah. There's not a ton of change uh, when it comes to pitch movement before and after the injury. I mean, this is also very quick, just kind of like looking, yada yada yada.
yeah,
So, um, well, you know what? I guess interesting enough, his arm angle did drop coming back after the injury. So maybe that's something, but it did go back up towards the end of the year, and he was still awful. So take that for what you will. But long story short, I like the signing. Luke Weaver's a good pitcher, I still think, and Mets needed a back end pitcher. They got it, and the back end of this bullpen kind of seems all but set now. You mean you got Devin Williams, you got Luke Weaver, you got Brooks Raley, and AJ Minter once he's healthy, coming back from his lat tear. That's a pretty good, solid back end. Williams, Weaver, Minter, I think is a good 7, 8, 9. But the rest of the bullpen probably still needs some work. The guy I've been talking about, the guy I've been wanting the Mets to sign, also has big velocity. I think Sir Anthony Dominguez still makes a ton of sense for this team. Uh, Big velocity, gets strikeouts. He does walk his fair share of batters, but again, big velocity, lots of whiffs, lots of strikeouts. Doesn't get hit overly hard. I think he makes a ton of sense for this team. So if they're going to make one last signing for the bullpen, I would like it to be Sir Anthony Dominguez, or they could go kind of what we talked about in the Bronx if they trade for a pitcher or something like that, or a trade in general, add in a reliever on top of that trade. But moving on from that, the last big move was the Mets did the least surprising move of the offseason, and they finally traded Jeff McNeil. Uh, Jeff McNeil was traded to the Athletics with some cash for a 17-year-old DSL pitcher, Yordan Rodriguez. Last year was his first professional year in baseball, so there's really not much to talk about with the return. This was just getting rid of the roster spot.
Pure salary dump.
Just pure salary dump. Off the team. Like
How much are the Mets
that's really
eating?
it. Only $5 million. So I think.
So what's that, like
I think he was
67%? About that, maybe a little lower. 60%.
Yeah, because he was making
not
like
60.
17. The Mets are covering 5, or they're sending 5 that way, so they're covering 5, whatever.
They're covering a third. Yeah, that's kind of what we were
Yeah,
talking.
so-
Where
Yeah,
if they get another team to eat 12 million, you're probably not getting anything prospect wise in return.
Mm-mm.
That's what
No.
happened.
and here we are.
Yeah.
So
Surprised it was the Athletics, but
yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense.
well, just
you
because
know.
them eating the money. That's more
Oh,
what
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of just the least surprising move, or the least surprising subtraction out of everything that's happened this offseason. This officially breaks up that 2019 core, of Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, and Jeff McNeil, all kind of out now. But I think if you're going to point to, because obviously the clubhouse is always going to be a talking point, whether that's fair or not is up for your own interpretation. But I think if you're going to point to one move being more so derived from a clubhouse issue, it probably is Jeff McNeil, unfortunately. Francisco Lindor is your guy. Again, whether you like it or not, he's here. He's going to stay. I doubt he gets moved. And they just didn't get along for whatever reason. And that's kind of just it. So it's a shame that this entire core kind of just didn't work out. But this was just the last piece of breaking up that core. And Jeff McNeil really didn't have a spot on this team either. Marcus Semien, for better or for worse, is going to play 162 games, 155 at the least, at the very least. And I don't really think it's a viable option to have Jeff McNeil as basically an everyday outfielder, especially with the surgery he had over the winter on his shoulder, or the thoracic outlet surgery. I'm not sure how his arm's going to come back after that. So I don't think it would have been a good idea to have him as a pseudo everyday outfielder. So he got pushed out at the end of the day, but I also think the fact that he didn't get along with Francisco Lindor and maybe some other players just kind of pushed that over the edge. So once again, I'm just kind of sitting here like, all right, what's next? Because we keep just tearing it out and tearing it down and getting rid of players, but we're not really doing anything to bring anybody in. I think Kazuma Akamoto would have been a good fit. Didn't sign him. I thought Wilson Contreras would have been a good fit. Red Sox traded for him. I thought Ron O'Hearn would have been a good fit. Pirates signed him. So again, we're back to square one of kind of like, all right, what are we doing? I'm not going to sit here and be an idiot and say the Mets don't have a plan, because they do. We just might not like it or understand it. So once again, what's next?
And I just want to say one thing on the clubhouse things. I love how everyone's going after Paul Blackburn. Because
I know.
he was interviewed and he answered it. And it's not like he's shitting on the Mets either. He just said,
No.
like, yeah, There was a weird
just
clubhouse vibe
yeah,
after JD and oh my god, why am I blanking on his name?
Iglesias.
Iglesias left.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't know. The Yankees Mets rivalry is getting so forced to me, and it's
Well,
just
yeah.
like he answered the question. What?
Yeah, I think it's more so like I'm one of these people. Like I'm over it.
Yeah,
Like the clubhouse stuff. Like, look, it's now a new year. Who gives a fuck? They were a bad baseball team. Like I don't. Excuse me. I don't care that Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto aren't the best friends ever. I don't care that Lindor and McNeil didn't get along. They were a bad fucking team. They just were. Bad fucking teams don't get along.
and you hear so many stories about teams having broken clubhouses but still winning, and that's
I will,
at the end of the day, you could still win a ring with a clubhouse that doesn't like each other. You just have
yes,
to
I
be
will.
a good
Oh,
baseball team.
look, this is now 40 years ago, or it's going to be 40 years ago. 1986 Mets fucking hated each other. Hated each other. They got into multiple fights. They did drugs every other night. They
Every
hated
other.
each other. Yeah. They hated each other and they still won.
I always bring up the Eagles last year about how there was
Right.
so much hate. AJ Brown is literally reading a book on the sideline about how not to crash out, and they won the goddamn Super Bowl. They blew out the Chiefs, who were going for a three-peat.
Yeah. So it's a ridiculous narrative that again, I think a lot of Mets fans are tired of. I'm tired of it. And when you ask, this isn't Paul Blackburn's fault. Like
Yeah,
again, like you said, he answered the question. When you ask somebody like Paul Blackburn, who was there for 2 months in 2024 before he got injured, and was there for a month in 2025 because he was
yeah,
also injured and then was just bad, it's kind of like, what are we doing? And then when you ask a disavowed horrible person, Mickey Callaway, his fucking opinion on the
yeah,
clubhouse, I'm sorry. Whatever you say no longer matters. If that's where you're going with it, I don't fucking care what you have to say.
yeah,
You invalidated any point you could have made because nobody gives a fuck what Mickey Callaway thinks about the 2025 Mets clubhouse.
yeah. He is the last person that should be involved with anything somewhat related to HR and ethics
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
relationships within
Being
the
a good
team.
person.
Yeah.
So,
Not being a dick.
right. That's my piece on the clubhouse stuff. That's my piece on the New York Post stuff. Back to the team. Cody Bellinger is a fit, whether I like it or not. Yes, he makes sense. I get it.
There's a
It's
spot on
annoying.
this roster for Cody Bellinger.
Yes. So again, I can sell myself on a 4-year deal for Bellinger, but that hard four. I cannot stress this enough. Hard four. No 5, no 6, 4 years or nothing. And even 4 years I think is too much. I think they're gonna wait around for Kyle Tucker. Kind of seems like that quote unquote plan for now. They'll wait around on Kyle Tucker, see if they get him on a short term high AAV contract. I think they're gonna do the same for one of the pitchers, a Framber Valdez or a Ranger Suarez. And look, I think Valdez makes a ton of sense for this team. I just don't think he makes sense on a 6-year deal. But if you get him on a 3-4 year deal, give him 110, you call it a day, sure. He does make a ton of sense. He takes the ball every day. He eats a lot of innings. He's a solid pitcher. I just think the Mets have some work to do on, I guess, the character
I was gonna
of
say, if
Framber.
he crosses up Francisco Alvarez once, his head may be on a spike.
Yeah, that's our baby boy. He can't do that.
Yeah.
So I think they have some work to do on that aspect. I never really liked Framber because I do feel like it's very similar to a Carlos Rodon situation. I really do think he's a mental pitcher. I feel like once, kind of like the cross up incident, if something doesn't go his way, if someone makes an error, if he doesn't get a call, I don't want to say he has a meltdown or like he kind of cries about it, but you best believe he is giving up a run after that. How many
Yeah.
runs? I don't know, but 1 run is
I
guaranteed.
think it's a fair comparison to an extent, but you're never going to see Carlos Rodon show up another teammate
No.
in that
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So, like, I get what you mean. I just want to say my piece on that. There is definitely a point to if something goes wrong, it's going to fuck with him mentally, and it's going to
Yeah.
add more likelihood of him giving up more runs. But, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm scared of what Framber, I can never say his fucking name.
Frempler.
What he would do if he also then had the New York media on him and that stress on him if he's doing bad.
Right.
If he did that to in Houston to a catcher,
Yeah. So again,
that
I
does
think the
worry me.
Mets do have their work cut out for looking into the character. And look, I don't want to speculate. He could be a great guy. He could be like the most genuine person on earth, but I'm just going based off what we've seen on the field.
Now, I will say there may be an argument for look at how much the Mets did to rework the clubhouse.
Right.
I think that's kind of like the other point where the whole thing is they're trying to
For
fix
sure.
the culture, trying to fix the clubhouse. Now that could be again that could be another thing where they fixed it so much to then bring in a guy like that, or why'd you work that much on fixing it to then bring in a guy like that?
Right.
And that
Like,
always depends on how it works out. On if he is a
yeah.
good pitch, if he plays well, the narrative will be, oh, look at how much work they did to fix the clubhouse. If he plays bad, it's going to be like, oh, they did this much work to fix the clubhouse and nothing changed. It all comes
Right.
down to winning.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the biggest thing. I don't care if you're friends. I don't care if you even fucking like each other. Just win. Be a good baseball team. Be entertaining.
Win and don't kill each other. Like that's really
Yeah, basically. Unless you literally cannot play with each other because you hate each other that much, get over it and win.
yeah.
Play baseball. I don't fucking know. So, again, we're kind of in the dark with the Mets. You know, at least the Yankees kind of had the Edward Cabrera thing, had like a direct link. The Mets are kind of like, well, they could do this. They could also do this. They might do this. They could also do nothing. So you're not giving me much to work with here, Mr. Stearns. But that's really all on the pitching side. It's kind of just like waiting out the market. You know, they're in on Cabrera, supposedly. They're in on Peralta, supposedly. They're probably just in on any pitcher that's available, supposedly. But I also think it's not a terrible idea if they kind of just go in with what they have. It's kind of like a quantity over quality approach. Because again, they have McLean, they have Peterson, they have Holmes, they have Manai, they have Senga, you have Sproat, you have Tong, Scott's coming back, and you have a bunch of other lower end pitchers, starters that are making names for themselves and might be available later down the line. You know, a Jack Wenninger, Jonathan Santucci, a Will Watson, like Zach Thornton. He might be a bullpen guy, but regardless, they might just be able to kind of patch it together with just the sheer amount of pitchers they have. But I would like them to at least sign one pitcher would be nice, just one. As far as the lineup, again, they need an outfielder. Like, I think you can go into the year not doing anything else after signing an outfielder of some kind, whether that's Bellinger, whether that's Tucker. They cannot go into the year with a Carson Bench, Tyrone Taylor, Juan Soto outfield. I don't think that's viable. And as far as the infield, the fact that they passed on Wilson Contreras, the fact that they passed on Ryan O'Hearn makes me believe they really like Ryan Clifford. I'm still gonna go back to that. If you want more of our thoughts on that, go watch the new Mets offseason episode we put in. That was the last episode we did before the new year. So you get a lot more thoughts there, but
My only pushback on
maybe
that would be
go ahead.
you better not really like Ryan Clifford. you better be in fucking love, ready to get on a knee and propose to him. Love
Yeah.
Ryan Clifford. If you're not even thinking, not even reading the market on Kyle Tucker for him.
Right. So again, that's kind of it. It's really not much else to go off of. They're not going to get Bo Bichette. You know, Eugenio Suarez could be an interesting name to watch, I guess. He can kind of play some first base and DH with Jorge Polanco. But if you sign Suarez, that's kind of the Mark Vientos role. So that Mark Vientos is definitely getting traded. I think the longer we go on, the least likely it seems Mark Vientos will be traded, for better or for worse. You know, do you bring back Harrison Bader? Maybe. And then after that, there's really not much. Again, the free agent market is very thin. So then you're gonna have to look at the trade route, which, you know, we had a few rumors of some Padres talks, but that kind of died down fairly quickly, and there hasn't been anything on that since. So yeah, that is truthfully, that's all I got. Unless you had anything else to add, Justin.
I still don't know the Mets plan. It's
Yeah,
frustrating in
it's
a
very
sense where
annoying.
because
Very
you
annoying.
want to talk about the Mets plan, but because that's what, like you said in the intro, the Mets have a plan. It would be stupid to think they don't have a plan. But
Yeah.
what the hell is it?
What is it?
And that's kind
Yes,
of.
sure. Run prevention. That's like the only thing we've gotten. But you also signed Jorge Polanco.
But run prevention also means, does that mean defense? Does that mean pitching? Does that mean
Right.
focusing more on high stress pitches? Does that mean bullpen? Does that mean starters? Does that mean the back end, the front of the bullpen? Does that mean front of the rotation, back end of the rotation? Does that mean that you're going to trade away hitters for pitching? Does that mean that you're going to be in the free agent market?
Yeah. Exactly. So hopefully we get some news over this next week or so.
Yeah.
I do have a feeling Bellinger will be at the very least like close to signing,
Mm.
maybe by the end of this week or something like that. It just seems like it's coming to a head in some respect. Uh, whether that's for the Yankees or the Mets remains to be seen. But I guess, Justin, if that's really all you had, we'll call it there. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I'm sorry I really didn't have much to give you this week. Once again, Happy New Year. I hope you had a happy and healthy holidays with you and your loved ones. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Really helps us out, lets us know you're enjoying the show. Of course, follow all of our social media accounts at the Triboro Podcast. We post all the signings, breaking news, whatever you want there. So follow us there so you get our initial reactions. But thank you guys again, and we'll see you in the next episode, whenever that may be.